The International Atomic Energy Agency gave reports that Iran has stockpiled over 400 kilograms of uranium, which is enriched to 60%. This level is dangerously close to weapons-grade material. United States and Israel did airstrikes on Iran to try to destroy these capabilities, but intelligence suggests that Iran had already moved essential equipment and fuel to safer places shortly before the attack started. Experts are warning that the breakout time, which means the time Iran would need to produce enough material for a bomb, has effectively dropped to zero or just a few weeks. The Iranian government keeps saying that its intentions are entirely peaceful, but global powers are pushing for stricter non-proliferation enforcement, and right now, inspections remain suspended. So, what is the strategic significance of Iran's 400 kilograms uranium stockpile? Iran's stockpile of over 400 kilograms of uranium enriched to 60% purity is very significant. The main reason is that this is called near weapons-grade status. This means Iran is now standing right on the threshold of becoming a nuclear-armed state. But how and when Iran started this? Iran started producing uranium enriched to 60% in April 2021. This production happened at two facilities, the Fordo plant and a pilot plant at Natanz. The reason Iran took this step was because the United States had left the nuclear deal, which is called Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, and had brought back heavy economic sanctions on Iran. Enriching uranium to 60% is much higher than what is needed for civilian nuclear power, and it moves Iran much closer to weapons-grade levels. The big question is how Iran made the process faster. By early 2025, Iran increased how fast it was producing this material. It started using more advanced centrifuges called IR6 machines. These machines are much more powerful than the older IR1 models. Each IR6 can enrich uranium about 10 to 15 times more efficiently. The process also became faster because Iran started feeding these machines with uranium that was already enriched to 20%, which makes it easier and quicker to reach 60%. Because of all this, Iran now has what the IAEA calls direct use material. This means the uranium is enriched enough that it could, in theory, be used to make a nuclear explosive device without needing further enrichment. However, the catch is, if such a device were made from 60% enriched uranium, it would likely be large, heavy, and not very efficient. That would make it very difficult to fit onto advanced delivery systems like ballistic missiles. But how many weapons can 400 kilograms, or roughly 880 pounds, make? Experts and officials estimate that 400 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium is sufficient to produce approximately 10 nuclear weapons, if it is further refined to weapons-grade levels, which is 90%. The IAEA defines a significant quantity as roughly 42 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium. This is the amount where the possibility of manufacturing a nuclear device cannot be excluded. As of June 2025, Iran has over 440 kilograms, which means Iran possesses more than 10 times this threshold. In making nuclear weapon, there is breakout time. What is this and why it matters? The stockpile has drastically reduced the time Iran would need to produce a functional nuclear weapon. This period is called breakout time. Some analysts argue that Iran's breakout timeline is now effectively zero. The reason is that Iran already possesses enough highly enriched uranium to fashion an explosive device. And while 60% enrichment is not the ideal level for a useful nuclear explosive, the technical step required to go from 60% to the 90% weapons-grade threshold is described as very short. U.S. Central Command has estimated that using this stockpile, Iran could produce its first 25 kilograms of weapons-grade material in roughly 1 week, and enough material for 10 weapons within just 3 weeks. The United States and Israel carried out a military operation called Operation Midnight Hammer, which targeted Iran's nuclear sites. This operation inflicted severe damage. It destroyed centrifuge halls, manufacturing plants, conversion labs, and power infrastructure. According to U.S. and Pentagon assessments, this set Iran's enrichment capacity back by months to 1 to 2 years. However, Iran claimed that the damage was only superficial, but the most important thing is that the 400 kilogram stockpile of highly enriched uranium was not confirmed destroyed. Reports before the strikes indicated that Iran had already dispersed or moved the stockpile to deeply buried tunnels and possibly underground locations, such as a site near Isfahan. Reports indicate the 400 kilogram stockpile remains intact. This mobility makes the stockpile very difficult to eliminate through conventional military means. IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi noted in June 2025 that the stockpile was unaccounted for after the strikes, and there was no verification access until limited resumption later. Because the uranium is stored in cylinders that are transportable, and because some sites are located under mountains, airstrikes cannot easily destroy it. Only ground operations or a full regime change could guarantee elimination. Tehran is using this stockpile as a central bargaining chip in international negotiations. Iranian officials have signaled a willingness to discuss curbs on the program or even dilute the stockpile in exchange for the lifting of financial and economic sanctions. Mohammad Eslami, head of Iran's Atomic Energy Organization, recently said that Iran might dilute its 60% enriched uranium, but only if all sanctions against the country are lifted. At the same time, a senior Iranian official told Reuters that Iran is willing to consider a deal. Under that proposal, Iran would send half of its highly enriched uranium abroad, dilute the rest, and join a regional nuclear program. In return, Iran wants the United States to recognize its right to peaceful nuclear enrichment and lift economic sanctions. But why Iran's case is unique in the world? The 60% enrichment level Iran has reached is far beyond the 3.67% limit that was set by the 2015 JCPOA. The IAEA has noted that Iran is the only country in the world without nuclear weapons that is enriching and stockpiling uranium at such high enrichment levels. No other non-nuclear weapon state is doing this, which is exactly why the world is so concerned. Iran has been enriching uranium to 60% purity. This is far above what is needed for civilian energy, which is only 3 to 5%. Because of this, it creates a serious concern for the global non-proliferation regime, which basically means the worldwide system that tries to stop nuclear weapons from spreading. But keeping the stockpile at 60% is part of Iran's strategy. Nuclear experts say that maintaining the stockpile at 60% is a deliberate strategic choice by Iran. It is not accidental. The reason is that 60% enrichment allows Iran to frame its program as having potential medical applications. One example is producing molybdenum-99. Molybdenum-99 is used to create technetium-99m, which is widely used in cancer imaging and diagnostic scans. So Iran can say, we are doing this for medical purposes, but at the same time, Iran is maintaining a technical setup that can be very quickly pivoted towards making a weapon in a matter of just a few weeks. So it gives Iran both a peaceful excuse and a ready capability. The main problem is that detecting Iran's nuclear program is very difficult. Detecting a clandestine, meaning secret or hidden nuclear program, presents very significant technical, physical, and logistical challenges. Here is why. The facilities can be very small. A modern centrifuge plant capable of producing 25 kilograms of weapons-grade uranium per year requires only about 500 square meters of space and consumes less than 100 kilowatts of power. This makes it very difficult to distinguish from an ordinary industrial building. Satellites and inspectors cannot easily identify it. Iran often buries its sensitive nuclear facilities deep underground to protect them from both detection and military strikes. For example, the Fordo enrichment site is embedded 80 to 110 meters beneath solid rock. This makes it highly resilient to conventional monitoring and even to bunker-buster munitions. Third reason is equipment and material can be quickly moved. Sensitive materials and equipment can be rapidly relocated to avoid detection or destruction. Intelligence and satellite imagery have shown that enriched uranium and sensitive hardware can be moved via truck convoys shortly before anticipated inspections or airstrikes. Iran did exactly this before Operation Midnight Hammer. Also, there are very limited environmental emissions. Gas centrifuge plants operate under high vacuum conditions. This means leaks primarily lead to air flowing into the equipment rather than uranium hexafluoride being released into the environment. Because of this, wide-area environmental monitoring for radioactive particles becomes extremely difficult, and a secret program can often be hidden within a declared civilian nuclear program. A state can use a safeguarded facility as cover for procuring materials or training experts. Also, current safeguards struggle to detect the production of low-enriched uranium in excess of what is declared, and that extra material can then be secretly used as feed material for a hidden site. And also, the reactor fuel makes it easier to build a secret weapon. Making a nuclear weapon requires uranium to be enriched, which basically means purifying a specific type of uranium atom to a very high concentration. This process takes a lot of industrial work and equipment. Normal uranium taken from the ground needs an enormous amount of processing to reach weapons-grade levels. But reactor fuel is already partially processed. It has been enriched to around 4%, whereas weapons grade is around 90%. Because the hard work is already done, a country only needs a small amount of additional enrichment equipment to finish the job. The question is why the International Atomic Energy Agency faces challenges in detecting the problem, as time is a critical issue. A major challenge is that the IAEA's timeliness detection goals, which means the target time to detect a diversion of nuclear material, are often much longer than the actual time required to convert that material into a nuclear weapon. For instance, while the IAEA's detection goal for direct-use material is 1 month, the technical conversion of that material into weapon components can take as little as 7 to 10 days. So by the time the IAEA even detects that something is wrong, the weapon components may already be ready. And there is also the cooperation problem. Inspectors can be denied access. Safeguards rely on the cooperation of the host state. Countries can legally suspend cooperation, withdraw from the Non-Proliferation Treaty, NPT, or simply deny inspectors access to sites based on security concerns or claims of military sensitivity. Without physical access, analysts are forced to rely on satellite imagery and intelligence estimates, and these cannot fully substitute for on-site verification. Iran has already suspended IAEA inspections, which means the world currently has no reliable way to verify what is happening inside Iran's nuclear facilities.